a storming bracket!
What's going on, everyone? So welcome to my latest video. This is of course a review for the film Take Shelter, which came out in 2011. It turns 10 this year, which gives me a pretty good excuse to finally sit down and give you guys a review. Because let's face it, with this movie being 10 years old, I've looked online and not many people have reviewed this film, and the ones that have reviewed it like 10 years ago. So figured I'd give you guys a little bit of fresh perspective. And I actually am joined today with Jacob Martin, who is also a fellow YouTube critic. I've seen this movie personally 3 times. Jacob has seen this 1 time, so you guys get to honestly hear a fresh perspective of both. Someone that's seen it a couple times versus someone it's their first time viewing. So before I kick it over to Jacob, because what we're going to do is essentially have it where he gives his positives, I give my positives, he gives his negatives, I give my negatives, and we wrap things up. Before I do that, in case some of you guys don't know what this movie is about, because again, I know it is quite a small film, the premise is quite simple. It's about a father who starts seeing that there's a lot of rain. And at the same time, this rain, he's seeing apocalyptic visions of such. And he's trying to come to terms with all of this stuff that's going on. Is he trying to protect himself from himself, or obviously the rain that's ensuing? So it's an interesting concept, honestly. And that's one of the reasons why I personally came across it, which I'll get into a little bit. But that being said, again, before I get into my thoughts further, I want to obviously kick it over to Jacob, giving his positive. So Jacob, take it away.
What's going on, Chad and all his viewers? I'm Jacob, if you don't know who I am. Thank you, Chad, for having me be a part of this collab with you. This is a first-time collab over on your channel, and I'm excited to talk about Take Shelter, which was a movie that I had never seen before. This film came out in 2011, directed by Jeff Nichols. This is my first time watch from that director as well. And now, having watched Take Shelter, I'm excited to check out some of this director's other work, especially films like Mud and Midnight Special. I'm sure Chad has already summed up the plot of Take Shelter. This movie really fascinated me because I came in thinking Take Shelter was just going to be this grounded disaster film based on the title, the poster, and some of my preconceived thoughts on the film. However, having watched Take Shelter, I came out of the film seeing a completely different movie. Yes, there is a bit of disaster movie flavor thrown in this movie, as the story on paper involves a big storm. But the movie is a lot deeper than that, as it dives into our main character's mental illness. The movie dives into our main character who has a mental illness. His family has a history of paranoid schizophrenia, and our main character fears that he's falling in the same path that his mother has, having these apocalyptic dreams of these storms. And the movie does this great job of leaving you guessing and leaving you thinking throughout whether the storms are actually really coming, or is he just crazy and he needs medical help. Michael Shannon, who plays the main character in this movie, is incredible in this movie. It might be the best performance that I've seen Michael Shannon in, if I'm being honest. There's several sequences in this film where Michael Shannon goes all out with such intense acting that it just blew me away when checking this film out for the first time. And then Jessica Chastain plays his wife in the film, and she does a great job in the film as well, figuring out what's actually going on and then trying to be that support system for Michael Shannon's character the more his character goes a little deeper into madness. I think this movie did a great job of telling such a believable, grounded story throughout. I love the cinematography and Jeff Nichols' direction, and the imagery that's shown throughout the film, especially some of these dream sequences, I thought were done expertly well. It's really hard diving deep into the story because I think this is a movie that's better knowing little to nothing at all if you haven't seen this film, because I thought this would just be a typical disaster movie but done in a more realistic, grounded fashion. But the movie actually took some deeper layers that I wasn't really expecting. And it ends on such a very ambiguous note where even after watching this movie, I'm still figuring out what the heck actually happened. I'm blown away by how Jeff Nichols ended this movie, and I'm still scratching my head over what actually happened. That's not a negative in any way because I thought the ending was absolutely brilliant. And I love movies that in such a way that leaves the audience figuring out what's actually going on and leaving it open to your own interpretation. I think a movie like Take Shelter is brilliant in that regard.
All right. Thank you very much, Jacob. I appreciate that. So my positives are quite plentiful. First of all, this film is directed by Jeff Nichols, who would later on do Midnight Special and Mud. He is actually a director that I am planning to rank his films. I haven't seen, I should say, one movie of his, and that's Shotgun Story. Still need to watch that. Once I do that, I will rank his films. But he's a director that does fascinate me. And I feel like with Take Shelter, I think that what he does here is just so incredible. He makes mundane tasks seem very fascinating. They're slow burn for sure, but the way he approaches them really makes them enticing. And obviously gives a lot of character to these, individuals. And I liked that. And also, he's a very subtle director with the acting. Like, these performances are great. Jessica Chastain and especially Michael Shannon give very nuanced performances. They have like little ticks that they give to their characters that really make for an effective viewing experience when you're watching it. I really liked that. I also love the cinematography. It's very drab, but also very naturalistic in its approach. And I felt like that really, really matched, honestly, the tone of the film. That bleak look as well as going with that bleak tone, because this movie has very, very little humor. It's a very humorless movie, and I personally like that because I feel like the topic at hand with mental illness as well as just family and also just dealing with, the everyday people, I feel like this is a lot of things that doesn't really require humor. I feel like this is very grounded in, obviously, the seriousness of it all. And I like that. And also how it handles mental illness, I feel like was so fascinating, but also so unique in its approach, as well as brings up questions of like, is this something that he is dealing with? Is this not? You're not quite sure sometimes, especially with the ending, which, by the way, I just wanted to say, I think the ending is fantastic. I don't want to spoil anything, but that ending was very effective for myself, especially this recent viewing. It's more ambiguous than you might think, but I feel like that ambiguity really adds to it all because, again, you're questioning whether or not he, obviously does have mental illness or not throughout. At least some viewers might. I personally do, so that's why I'm saying it. But it really kind of adds to that. I thought that was quite effective. The score by Dave Wingo also is awesome. Also very dreary, but also very, listenable, honestly. Like, I've listened to the score plenty of times on the way to work. It's a really good score. Very effective, too, when it's obviously compiled with what's happening visually. So I really liked that. And again, I know I'm talking a lot about the positives, which I'm supposed to, but there's just a lot to talk about in terms of this arena. I really do appreciate the fact that Jeff Nichols was able to pull off what he did. He did a really good job with this film. Now, before I get into the negatives, I want to just say this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kick it over to Jacob, so that way he can give any negatives that he might have. So, Jacob, take it away.
I will say this movie is a bit of a slow burn. Like, it took a good while for the story to actually get going. Like, 30 minutes into the movie, I'm like, this movie hasn't really gotten anywhere. I'm not really sure where this movie's going to go, but the more the movie dives deeper into our main character's stability, I think the movie gets better and better from there. It captivates you, it hooks you in, and it has an incredible payoff at the end. So, Chad, I want to thank you for introducing me to this movie, Take Shelter. I think it's a fantastic film. Very well directed, very well acted, very well shot. It's a fantastic movie all around. I don't think it's a rewatchable movie, and I think the lack of rewatchability and the fact that it is a bit of a slow burn, I think will hurt my final score at the end because it's not a movie that I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to rewatch Take Shelter tomorrow or next week or something, because it's not one of those types of movies. It's one of those watch once or every few years and just sit back and enjoy the sheer beauty of this film. I think this is a fantastic character piece. I love the direction, the acting, the cinematography, the layers that this movie presents, and it's all around a very fascinating film that I highly, highly recommend. I was able to check the film out on Amazon Prime. So if you have Amazon Prime and if you haven't seen Take Shelter before, it is definitely one worth checking out. I can't recommend it enough. And I'll be giving Take Shelter a 4.5 out of 5 stars. And on my 100-point scale, it's getting an 87 out of 100. So thank you, Chad, for having me on your video collab for Take Shelter. I enjoyed watching this movie for the first time, and I hope we can do more collabs in the near future, whether on your channel or on my channel. I'm sure Chad will leave links in the description below where You can check out my YouTube channel. I also do movie reviews. I also do TV reviews, ranking videos, and other fun stuff along the way. If you want to check out my YouTube channel after watching this video, you are more than likely to do so. Chad, I won't hog up too much of your time. I enjoyed talking about Take Shelter, and I'm curious to know what your thoughts on this movie are. So back to you.
All right, Jacob, thank you very much. So for my negatives, I would say personally the only really ones are that there are some scenes in the middle part that do feel a bit slow. The characters also, although they feel very lived in and obviously do care about the main family, I feel like anyone else that's, even remotely close to the family, I feel like we as viewers, although they felt very realistic and, obviously lived in, I felt like we didn't get past the two-dimensional, experience of them. I wanted to kind of know a little bit more about them. I feel like it was kind of like surface-based in that regards. But besides those two things, those are minor quibbles for an, otherwise really well-done film. Take Shelter is definitely one of the best films of 2011. I think it's a very effective film. I think 10 years later, I can look at it and say that this is a movie that's not very, very watchable. Like, it's not like some other movies that came out this year where I've seen like half a dozen to a dozen times. That's just, not how this movie is. It's more of like a movie that every 3 to 5 years I, revisit. And it's quite simply just because it's such a well-done film. It's really well done, but it's not a movie that, like, you can just put in. You have to be in a certain mood, certain mindset because of the way it's, obviously structured, the tone, and obviously its naturalistic approach. Obviously, if you're in the mood for an action movie, you're not going to put this on. But if you're in the mood for, like, a slow burn, character study piece that at the same time has a lot to say, then I would definitely say put this movie in because it's really good. And that's why I personally will be giving Take Shelter a 4.25 out of 5-star rating, which there's like a hot sauce rating. It's the good old Louisiana Pure Crystal hot sauce. That's right. This is a good film. I just had to give it that rating. But guys, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And also, I just wanted to give a huge thank you to Jacob Martin for being on my channel. Hopefully, this will be one of many, many collaborations. I really do appreciate it. Check out his channel, guys, if you haven't done so already. But again, guys, let me know your thoughts on Take Shelter. Has it aged well at 10 years? Do you guys like it? Do you not? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And are you excited for my Jeff Nichols ranking video, which will come out probably many, many months from now, just because I'm backed up with other director ranking videos that I still need to post. But nonetheless, guys, again, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget the subscription, notification bell, and I'll catch you guys later.